Want to put it on top of here, maybe?
Well, then it
Oh,
points
then it
down.
goes
Yeah,
down.
yeah, yeah.
Don't touch it now. Don't.
Yeah, but it doesn't have me in it.
You did that on purpose.
No, me and you are out.
That's it. We're outcast.
One of the boards on there.
Okay, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I hereby announce that this meeting is being held in accordance with Chapter 231 of the Open Public Meeting Act. Proper notice of meeting dates has been given to the Morris Newsbee, the Morris Daily Record, and posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Doherty. Present. Mr. Drutzler. Mr. Lombardi.
Present.
Mr. McAlear.
Present.
Mrs. Stecker. Present. And I'd like to state that Forrester, Mr. Doobie is here, and same with the council liaison, Mr. Cortese.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
No, I think there's a mistake that needs to be corrected.
Really?
Sure.
Let's see here where my paper copy is. So I think Karen or whoever wrote this, he swapped around the votes. So it says that I voted against the forester's report and for the tree planting, and
That's the opposite.
it was the opposite.
It
of that,
is,
yeah.
so,
So that will just need to be corrected.
and we're,
So here's the forest report, so this needs to be all yes.
So the nays for the first one
and
should be
then,
none, and then
Next page. Right here. Right here.
Oh, about the 12 trees and the 8 trees are we
Yeah.
talking about?
Mhm.
yeah. So I voted against the planting, but I didn't vote
Right.
against the forester and swapped back. The foresters
Oh,
one
I
and
see.
swapped
I get
the
it.
other way around. So.
okay, so it's not even on here, so you have to, Mr. Lombardi read the motion to approve, Mr. Drutzler, seconded by Mr. Drutzler's vote, so I
Who's
have
all
to
in
put in
favor?
there that you
Mhm.
said no.
Okay.
But there,
But this one is different, 46.
I know, I got
Yeah.
40,
Okay.
you did it, okay, fine, thank you. All right, a motion now for the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Seeing there's none, I close that section of the meeting. Okay, communications. I just want to say thank you to everyone who was able to make it to Arbor Day. It was a fantastic event. I think it went very well. The students were really interested. The trees were delivered to them later on in the day, as were the ones to the library, so I think everything went really well with that there.
And, I called Arbor Day because I thought maybe possibly we could not pay for these trees, because there was quite a few that were dead, and the way they
Oh,
were
no.
shipped to us,
Oh.
and the whole 9 yards. And before I said anything, they said they are trying their best to process it, that we do not pay for the trees, so I just let it at
Good
that,
for you.
and nothing has come
that's
of it.
great. Thanks,
Great.
Karen.
And then
Thank you.
next year, I will have a connection to get the little trees, I'm pretty sure.
Perfect.
Right?
Okay, and if I have this connection, you will get them. It's one of your, competition that might be okay?
And I have pictures of the trees if anybody who wasn't there would like to see them, the state that they were in.
Well, you see, the problem was is that we were actually thinking we were getting the little seedlings in the little thing, and we'd hand them out, and everything is nice, and everyone is happy. But it wasn't like that this year, it was
No.
in these bunches.
Big bundle.
They died in February and then they delivered them.
Right, and everything was, but
The,
then we finally got it down, cause we got a spray bottle, so we wrap them up, spray them, and stick them in an envelope, and it went so much faster,
In
right?
the parking lot.
Yeah, some of the root wads were larger than the tree itself. So,
Yeah, the
if
pictures
that
are,
helps for any.
yeah.
When did this happen? In the parking lot after I left?
Well, yeah,
You
what
showed up
happened
by
was.
UPS to the school?
Yeah,
No, they
know.
showed up here at like 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock. And I was all excited, I thought they were just gonna take the whole box and leave, but it wasn't like that.
Two bundles of trees wrapped together like this with just roots and little.
Right, and actually,
Trees
there's a
not
whole
that
bunch
big.
of trees,
Disappointing.
if anybody
Pull them
wants a
apart,
few,
yeah.
outside the annex, you're welcome to as many as you like.
How tall are they? What is the ceilings?
If you want some, you're welcome, and
I'll ask people.
Yeah.
okay, because they're all in there.
So the tree itself's about this, and the roots are about this.
Right.
So is that why I didn't see any publicity for the library, because it was like,
No, the library has them.
The library
oh,
got it.
was there an announcement that went out somewhere?
They were
about that?
supposed to
We
announce
never,
it.
we never said anything that they weren't getting them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You know,
they were
because we
hand
thought
delivered to
we
the
weren't
library.
getting
Yeah,
them,
yeah,
you know?
35.
35
All
went to the
right,
library.
maybe I missed the.
And then what about
So,
her
this is what
school? I
they-
don't think they got theirs, did they?
No, we're still working
Wow,
through
that's a hell of a root
Yeah.
system.
If they still have them, I don't know,
That's the
cause I never
tree.
saw anything
And
about it,
that's
so
the
I wouldn't have
roots.
known as a
That's
resident
how
that
bad
they
they
had
are,
those,
that's
so.
what they look like.
I don't know what.
Should we
it's
talk to the
on.
library about telling
They were-
people about
they were-
them?
The roots get dry, you're dead, that's it.
Well, I think she was, cause I went like.
Just when they
2
came
weeks
in,
back.
she was telling people?
Yeah, cause
Okay.
I called
Trees
in
are
the
there.
morning, they said they weren't
Maple.
delivered yet.
White,
And then
White
Karen
pine.
said they
White
were
pine.
coming in, so I called back and said, you're gonna get them today, and Michael dropped them off, right?
yeah, we went and dropped them home. That's what they look like.
That's disappointing, I'm
Ah.
sorry,
They're-
that's disappointing. Well, thank you guys for separating them.
It was, yeah.
It was, you know,
It was an
a lot,
ordeal.
and it was a very,
That's too bad.
very hot day.
It was a little warm that
Yeah,
afternoon.
it was a
It died
crazy-
because they went all the way to Chattanooga and back, right?
Well, it was,
It was,
I couldn't understand, well,
well, now we know,
now we know.
now we know.
So
Thank
just,
you to, thank you to Ro and Frank too for planning Arbor Day, I didn't want you to get, and
No.
and
Send
appreciate
me an
that.
email.
Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah, yeah,
Thanks.
yeah,
Chattanooga.
yeah. And, the Borough Beaver was good,
Oh, yeah.
again, so Jones watches this, thank you, Joan, for the idea, appreciate that. We're gonna keep up with that, I think. Kids love it.
and I just wanna say, just to continue to meet with, John Signorelli, the head of DPW, had a couple of things done, by them this month. There's an empty lot that's town property across from the Idlewild Pool location. They did some, removal work there where they could. There's another tree that's on the meeting list, that they can't get to. They finished taking down the dead pines, along the lake in Whatnot Park, and then they did a pruning on Trowbridge Road. That's all I have for communications.
How lucky are we with that road department?
We are very, very lucky.
Yeah.
Could move into the Foresters report.
All right,
We didn't talk about the budget yet, have we? Did we skip that? Did I miss it?
No, our 25 budget request was approved.
All of it?
Yes.
No, 95,700. That's
96,
not what
700.
we requested. We requested
95?
more.
It stayed flat from last year,
Yeah,
that's fine.
that's what happened.
Yeah,
It stayed
that's
exactly flat from last
So
year.
this says 96.7, but it's really
That's what, no,
95.7.
it's 96,700.
Oh.
96.7, same budget as last year.
Same budget.
So did we have a, on this, on the, I don't know if this is the time to talk about this, but on the budget, tally that you give us normally, Karen?
I changed it. So
Does
actually,
that reflect from last
well, it was
month?
very easy to be, because it was the same budget, so nothing really had to change. You know, the only thing that had to change is the breakdown, okay? Like, I
See
know
it here
you
in
changed
paper, is
like,
it here?
stump removal to 7,000. I think
Why didn't we get more money?
I'm working on it, we have to, if
I mean, I
can
thought
talk.
it was a good budget.
It was a very good budget. We have a lot of, things that came up and, we kept the budget neutral. They were thinking about lowering it. I did whatever I could, put my feet down and, when Michael came and gave the presentation, it was the first time that at least I remember someone coming to our board and really educating us at what's involved. And like right now with the trees that are blooming, I'm always looking up. I hope I had a car, but I'm hoping that all the trees, I want to see little buds, and a lot of them still don't have it. I'm like, oh no, please, come on, bud, please. But they also want to know about the canopy. I don't want to take a lot of your times. like respectfully, where was it now compared to like 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, or 1 year ago? And I'm gonna see if I can work with yourself or Frank with the county to get maps, or someone to give us a little direction.
Strangely, you brought that up, Sal, because I have a report I'm gonna hand out.
Oh.
And I had no idea they requested this. I didn't,
Well,
I
they
had
asked
not
me
heard that.
for it, and it was last meeting, so it was Thursday.
Oh,
We're finding
yeah, I
out
had
on
no
Monday,
idea.
so it ain't
No,
that
no, I don't
bad.
mean you didn't tell me, I just
Yeah,
mean,
no, no, I
it was
would've,
just very
yeah.
coincidental,
And
actually.
it was very
Yeah,
coincidental, and there's a lot of questions that, the council had a little bit of a skepticism, and I think because they just didn't know what's involved with shade tree and trees, we
Exactly.
just go there, cut things down, plant things. No, it's very, and Michael was very good about how, you know, we do our best to get the max for a buck. But I see a lot of the work being, and I'm not trying to be in any way offensive, more, I don't see that much preventive. I see more, a lot of reactionary stuff here. And the reason why we can't have it is because we'd have to spend a lot of money to be proactive instead of reactive. But we're doing the best we can, and I think we're moving closer, and the town is understanding it. But with that report, that's gonna help a lot.
I'm gonna
And,
take your time, I hope you brought a cup of coffee, because it's gonna take probably
Sure,
about 15 minutes
alright.
for me to go through it, but
I'll do
I
it
worked,
first,
I worked to get
Yeah,
us some data.
and I
so we can-
appreciate your time,
Yeah.
and I hope everyone understands that. They hear $96,000, you gotta cut a couple of trees, you gotta plant a couple of trees, it's not that.
It's very fun.
And there's a lot more involved with that, and also, they want an independent, forester thing, at least in case we have any questions.
We had talked about
Which,
that.
you know, I talked to you about it, Dave. And, that's where I'm at with that, and I think we're moving in the right direction, and I think next year we're gonna get more money. And also, last year, because of the, let's just say the council wasn't as educated as it was now, and there's a lot more to learn. When you guys had asked the money, it was a straight no, because we felt that we just didn't know what 120, you guys want another 26, 27, 126 on trees. And please, I'm not in any way,
No.
understand.
any of you.
Absolutely
Your hard
not.
work, and I counsel and everyone, myself, appreciate it, but I think education is the route. Had that situation come up now or after your report, that 26,000 would have been approved.
Mm.
But it was only not approved because they just didn't have enough information.
Right.
Anyway, again, I don't want to take a lot of your time, thank you.
No, thank you, that's really helpful, actually.
That's why it's helpful to have you so actively involved
Huh.
in the meetings. Because you are an evangelist for what we do, and, you know, that it makes a big difference when we're not there.
That's a very nice analogy.
When we're not there to represent ourselves, you're able to do that for us, so,
Yeah.
thanks.
And I do it all my heart. I see that all you guys work very hard and love Morris Plains, and more importantly, the safety of Morris Plains, because especially these dead trees where children are gonna walk or play, that's a priority for me.
Exactly,
I'm
that's why
walking through
we've
these
been
parks, I'm walking
working.
through these paths, making notes,
Yeah.
and please blossom.
Exactly.
Hopefully it'll work.
That's why we've been doing a lot of work, in the parks with DPW and Dave to get everything.
And I couldn't agree more, God bless DPWs, right, what they do, and,
Yeah, John and his team does a great job.
Amazing.
and also you, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
I asked partly because I was wondering, like, we had talked at a meeting, about trying to figure out about how we were gonna get money, or if we're going to have a motion to get money, or whatever it is for accreditation. He said the gap between what the grants would fill and the other thing was about $15,000 or $13,000.
Mhm.
I don't know if we could spread that out over years or what, so, I just like that to be, we don't have to decide that right now, especially if Frank's not here, but, I think that, going forward, hopefully you'll be more persuaded after you see the information I put together. I think we really need to do that, so.
Okay.
I hope we can kind of maintain as much as we can for non-emergency things, some amount of money. I don't know if we can split it over 2 years or not, I'm not sure how the accounting works.
That's a question for the finance team, but we could take that to them.
Thank you.
All right, so we're jumping, memo 2517, 108 Glenbrook Road. There's two trees that are concerning on the Homer Avenue side, that both of them need to be pruned. One is a 24 to 36 inch, and the other is a 36 inch plus.
And the other one is a 24 to 36?
24 to 36, and the other one's 36 plus.
And the total cost is 1,300?
Correct. 18 Watnong, they said it was dead. It's not a dead tree, but if you come from the Winding Way side, there's a large cavity in it, but I think we can prune it out and keep the tree going, so it would be a 36 inch plus prune.
Okay.
$25.19.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, do we put the cost on there now or no?
Mhm.
Okay, just go off
Yeah,
that,
the
all right,
sheet
gotcha,
of
gotcha,
everything.
gotcha, okay, I'm sorry.
2519, that's the Court Road Park. There's a large pine tree. It's right near the corner of 202. Happened a few years ago, some storm damage in it. It looks like there's a cavity, but I don't want to jump the gun. So what I propose is the next month or so, we'll take a look at it, and I'll come back once my guys can get in there and take a better look at it.
And just keep it on.
Keep on the worksheet, yeah, for review, please.
Did you guys talk about this before, Mike? Is that what the
No, that was a memo that came through with Mr. Stark. He was walking.
Does the dash, I'm sorry, just the.
No
dash,
cost.
There's no cost?
Yeah, no
No
cost,
cost.
that's going on the worksheet.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a giant hole in the tree, so they're gonna have to take the bucket truck into the hole and kinda.
Sure,
to-
okay.
and see,
All
yeah,
right.
the dash is zero.
Okay.
And 2520, DPW took down a couple trees, so there's 2 stumps to grind. Both stumps are 12 to 24 inch. 2521, 26 Lakeview. The only dead tree I could find is on his property. It's about a good 15 to 20 feet off the road. But other than that, there's nothing along either the front or the back of his property along Brandis.
And I've already left a message with the
Have you?
homeowner
Okay.
today.
Went over
Yeah.
there too.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing, and
Yeah.
we did work with, this house in the past, and there's a tree that was planted, probably last year or the year before, that's in the front, that's now blooming, so I'm not sure if that's what he had originally been talking about or not.
Okay. 53 Sylvan, that was kind of the area I talked about earlier, DPW is doing some work in, but there's a huge ash tree in the back, and part of it broke out and hit their shed. So it's dead, it's stone dead, it needs to come out. It's 36 plus, but there's no stump grinding on that.
Can I just ask a question? If it came down, hit their shed, was there damage on the shed? Did they file an insurance claim? Isn't it going through their insurance?
As far as she didn't say, I spoke to her, she didn't say she filed the claim. I mean, the shed wasn't destroyed, it hit the shed.
No, there's like a little damage to one shingle.
But it wouldn't be the town paying for it anyway, it goes.
Yeah, but that's what I mean,
She's
like,
asked if she's going through the homeowners.
going through homeowners, because then that's taken care of through her policy versus us taking care of it. Okay.
2523, the Presbyterian Church on Hillview. There's a maple there that has dead limbs, actually, I think 1 or 2 are actually cracked in the tree that need to be pruned out. So that's a 24 to 36 inch prune.
There's one in there that's loose, I don't know if you saw it or not, it's pretty,
Yeah,
it's pretty large, hanging over the
I
sidewalk.
think I
so-
sent a picture to everybody.
Oh, you did, okay, great,
Yep.
thanks.
Okay.
2524, 6 Linwood Road. It's a pear tree, there's some dead limbs in it. I have not spoken to it, but I'm almost positive DPW can take care of it.
They already looked at it
Oh,
this
did he?
morning.
Oh, perfect.
Taking
Okay.
care of it. Yep.
And the last was, I guess, a request from, to look at some of the pear trees to fertilize in front of Borough School. So those 3 I would suggest, and then there's 2 in the island by the train station.
Yeah, so that's on to the next line underneath, so it's the 3 pear trees that were brought up at the prior month's meeting. Those are the ones right in front of the school here, so to be fertilized. And then there's 2 pear trees in front of the Model Railroad Club's building. that need it, and then we're gonna start fertilization of the Merchant block and moving down Speedwell, so starting with 12 pear trees.
Okay, are they just gonna be the railroad and the Merchant block, or is it gonna be?
Yeah, they're
more?
From the barber shop down.
From the Merchant block down, whatever we could get through for 12 trees, being
Okay,
budget
so
conscious.
you'll know what to do then.
So we'll start and work our way
Way
down,
down.
and I'll let you know what I didn't count.
Okay.
Mhm.
We'll figure out what 12 gets us, and then
We'll go there, we're gonna start with 12, and then as budget allows, we'll continue down.
Okay.
so you do 12 on top of the other 5.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
And I know we talked about this once before, some of those, it's probably a DPW thing, but some of those trees are hitting the buildings. So maybe Dave, if he,
I'll
Like
talk to
take a
John,
look.
maybe John I can walk,
Yeah.
you know, and see
I
which
thought
ones.
last year, the
There
one
was
was in
that
front of
one
colleges and
bar,
one
yeah.
was in front of.
Didn't one question the sign, and then they moved, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was Abby. Yeah, Abby Consulting.
he would, cause it was blinding his sign.
Yeah, it's blocking the
The other
sign.
one, Tony, the owner of Tony's Pizza, he's complaining that they've been hitting his building and he doesn't like it. And I
Well, we'll
think he
take a-
checked it a couple of times,
Yeah, I mean, what
Right,
they do
yeah.
is they're growing.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
all
So
right,
maybe
well,
you and John, if you walk in front, just, he could take a note of which ones they're
I'll
growing.
make a note, and I'll see what John,
Yeah.
what he can and can't do, and then
Yeah.
we'll have to work on it from there. Okay,
Yeah.
that'll work. Oh, that's everything I have, sorry.
So that's, as far as everything goes, so the 2 sections with the memo work is 4160, and then the worksheet work and the additional pear trees, that's 2680, so altogether, I ask for a motion to approve this work to be done in the amount of $6,840.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Now, if we look at the worksheet, which is,
Hold on, you gotta do a roll call.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, voice vote, all in favor, okay, good. But a worksheet, we're taking off the borough school,
Yep, that's,
but we're gonna leave, well, Gladys, that's her tree that stays on there.
yes, the
forever.
fir law tree
And
continues to stay with.
25 Harrison, we're keeping
We're gonna
on
keep
again?
that.
We'll just keep on it, I
Yeah.
think until she calls again,
Okay, all right.
we'll just let that go.
I just had a comment about the worksheet here, so, I rode my bike with my daughter, which was fun, but hard for her, over to Community Park Sunday morning, and I looked at the site over, on the hill in Community Park, and I don't know if this count is only for trees that Dave did or something, but I counted 33 stumps there, not 4. So that was
You only did 4.
so it's 4, so are we keeping a record of how many total trees we've cut down, including DPW, or only the ones that Dave did?
Only,
I'm not, I only keep a record of the trees that are being taken down.
I'm not asking you necessarily, Karen, because I think you probably have enough to do, but I think we should do that in terms of our, because I mean,
Account for replacement.
yeah, in terms of our replacement,
They cut a lot down, for example, by,
Yeah.
Community Park,
Mhm.
besides the 6 that you guys put in. But the other, but then DPW went there with a lot of smaller ones.
Yeah,
And
they're
they're
probably-
back, you know.
some of them are small, some of them were very small. I mean, we could think about what we want to
Yeah, I
count
don't
in
think
terms
you'd
of
be
our
one for
count,
one
we don't need
there.
to count every sapling, but
No,
there were a lot of, I counted more than 4 large stumps there, unless things had already been cut down there previously. There are quite
there's quite a bit of, yeah, I mean,
It's a pretty big area,
yeah,
so.
they did quite a bit before we got in there.
So Dave took care of, was it 4 or 6? And then they probably did about a dozen,
Yeah.
so
You're talking about the batting cage?
there's about 8
Yeah.
that we're taking
Yeah.
down.
Why are we keeping track of what DPW is doing? I would think DPW manages that stuff, right?
I know John
I'm
has
sorry, I
a
think it's
tally
just
of
for
it.
replacements, correct?
I think
Yeah.
they're talking about the stump removal. So if DPW removed them, they never remove the stump.
No,
I'm
and then the
asking
park
why
area,
Rob
we-
wants us to keep a tally of that versus getting that information from DPW, whatever they're working on.
Well, I think, it's our job to manage the forest of the town. And, just because Dave doesn't cut the tree down doesn't mean that we're not losing a tree. If DPW goes in there and cuts down whatever, I counted 33, 17, whatever it is, that's a large number of trees that are being removed that just disappeared. And when you see the report that I'm gonna give you today, you're gonna see why I think it's important that we keep track of what that is, because we are losing trees at a phenomenally high rate.
Well, maybe a report will convince me. But I just.
Whether it does or not, it's just a fact. I mean, you know.
No, my only point is why, I get why you want a total count, but if DPW is already doing it, why do we need to do it as well? Why wouldn't we just collect the information from them?
Do they keep a record of how many trees they've removed?
Actually, what they'll do is if they remove a tree, they'll call me like they did those 2 trees, the stump has to be removed. So I don't know if they're aware that these stumps have to be removed.
No, the stumps in this wooded area that's in discussion don't need to be removed. So what they'll call in for a
Right.
stump removal, if it's in front of a house or
House,
something
right.
like that.
So these trees, like you may have seen 33 stumps, I don't know if they're in an area that have to be removed.
They don't.
Oh, okay.
No, they don't.
It's a wooded location, and that's the area we discussed last, well, are they gonna plant there? Okay,
Yes.
they're gonna, okay, good.
But you see, Rob, if they needed to be, like, they would tell me.
They would tell you, but otherwise you don't know.
No, they wouldn't, if they feel that they took a tree down and the stump has to be removed, and a lot of times Dave is involved also, they would tell me, and they'd say, Karen, you have to do a memo up for the stumps.
Right, so this is my point, Marion. In terms of our tree loss, this is a black hole, because if it's someplace where there's no stump being removed, we have no record of it.
I'm sure John has a record of it. When I meet with him like I do every month,
Yeah.
I'll have a report for you next month.
If he has a record of all the trees that he's removed, that would be great, and I
Yeah.
think we should incorporate that into our own records so that we have a sense of.
Okay, that's, I understand now.
And
Yeah,
what we're
cause like
gonna
this
do-
area in particular they're talking about, some of those trees could have come down 10 years ago and, you know, and it's sad if so I'm just trying to, that's why I'm trying to understand, like, does it matter overall that they were taken down 10 years ago, we're just noticing it, we're saying in 2025, we're including that count of 10 trees, I'm just making that number up, whatever the number is, the 30 trees or
Remember we
whatever.
talked about,
I'm just trying to figure that
the
out.
Shade Tree Commission is now looking at trees that are 50 and 60 years old.
Sure.
So, and that's why we're having storm damage and
Yeah.
ash and everything else.
And
So-
I'll take care of it with John, cause I'm sure that he,
You just give me a number and I can
Yep.
put the DPW removed. You
we'll
know?
put it into the minutes and report for next month. Yep, absolutely.
I just wanna say, the more information, like stuff like that, the more helpful it is for me.
Yep, absolutely.
And I guess just the fresh cuts, you know, it's dead, you can see the fresh
Yeah,
cuts.
and we're not
The
gonna be
ones
able
that
to
are
keep
10
track
years
of.
old, they're already splintering and it's
Mhm.
already,
Yep.
We're not gonna be able to keep track of every tree that falls in the forest or whatever, obviously, but if we're saying that they should go in and be cut down, whether it's DPW or Dave, I think we should have some sort of record of it. It should be
Absolutely.
kept by
Yeah.
us.
That's fine. Yeah, that'll be in
Yeah.
everything for next
I
month,
think
'cause
forward, I'm just
he has
questioning
the-
I think it's
backward.
perfect for replacements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, I'm just questioning backward looking versus forward.
Totally agree.
I don't have anything for old business, since we kind of talked through some communications. Anyone have new business?
Sorry, I'm that guy tonight, I have old business.
Sure.
Two things, I don't know if this is the right place to talk about it or not, it always confuses me a little bit, but in terms of planting, so the new trees were planted, they were small, I think Karen told me that you and Frank had talked to them, because we talked about that, just a little bit of point
Sure.
of information.
Yeah, sure. We spoke to Serbos. They're making it right with us with the new round of trees that are coming into town, the ones that we discussed last month. Instead of giving us the 2.5 to 2 to 2.5 that we requested, they're making it right on the smaller trees that they gave us and are giving us 3.5 to 4-inch trees.
Okay, so you told them, hey, look, these are
Correct.
not what we contracted for.
Mhm.
I think, I'm not positive, but the tree, did you look at the tree, or has anyone looked at the tree? I don't know whose area it is at 21 Old Wood Road.
Correct.
It looks like that tree was not planted in our right of way.
It
It's
is-
planted
it
way
was-
back.
It was not.
Okay.
No, we're
So-
aware of it, and they've been that's part of kind of why they're gonna make it up to us with the larger caliber of trees. They were informed that it was a mistake.
Okay, I don't know, and then I think that goes to maybe, that we need to check these planting locations. I don't know if the resident put a stake out there, and that was, not knowing, because a lot of people don't know what is the town right of way and what isn't. Maybe the resident thought, hey, I'd like a tree here, the borough's offering me a tree, and they didn't understand that it had to go in our planting strip, or if it was just an accident by Servo or what.
So most of the stuff in communicating with Servo was a miss on their part. We had conversations, because I know one of the houses that you went to, you guys had marked out where it was supposed to go, and it did not go where the state was.
Yeah,
So,
but part of the problem probably was that it was so long between when I visited the houses and when they were actually planted.
but the stake was still there, though.
Oh, it was? Oh,
The
well,
stake-
hey.
yeah.
I pounded that stake in well then, I
Yeah,
guess.
no,
All right.
the stake was in the exact spot that the homeowner wanted. It just
What
they
was
put
going
it-
on there? They just weren't, okay. Well,
different crew, so which is why they're gonna make it up to
That's
us.
disappointing. Okay, so.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. Thanks for dealing with that, because I saw the size of the trees and what they look like, and I said, I had just bought some trees for my own house, and I'm saying to myself, $450, I'm getting trees that are 7-8 feet high, that are, for $250 or something. What are we doing here? So.
Yeah, they gave us inch to inch and a half, because that's what they had available at the time. They grabbed the wrong allotment of trees for us.
All right.
I'm glad we're making it right.
Yeah, that's really good. Thanks for doing that. Appreciate that. And then the other thing that I have to say, even though it might make people a little bit, I wish Frank were here. When we voted, I voted against the tree planting motion last time, in part because of the community park location, but that I can sort of let go. But I didn't understand the logic of planting trees in that park on Janeway. And I had emailed you about it, Mike, and said, can you go over there and try and look? And you had said you're gonna see if you could figure out what was going on over there. In my count, there's 8 mature trees over there, and there's 3 newly planted trees over there that have stakes. And the park is the size or half the size of my backyard. And I can't understand, with all of the other gaps we have in town, why it is that we're planting trees there.
So two things on that. One is, to my understanding, the people that did the partial donation lived in that general area. And with speaking with other residents in that general area, that park or small location of town property at one point was very heavily populated with trees. So our goal for those homeowners in that general area was to repopulate it to what it had been.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think this just sort of goes to something I've been saying for a while, which is, if these trees are planted in donation, I didn't think we were telling people these are the trees. I thought we had a discussion about that there were not specific trees that were donated in people's memories, because that created problems. If that's the case, and it's in someone's memory, I don't want to make a huge deal about it. I just think the larger point for me is not the 2 trees. It's that, I don't understand the rationale behind some of the things we're doing. And if someone asks me, well, why, and I vote for it, I have to be able to explain to them why it is that we're planting trees over there, all right? And if we don't give a rationale to people, they're gonna fill in the rationale for themselves, and oftentimes that's not flattering for us. So I think we need to be very clear with all the decisions we're making about what it is that we are doing and why. Doesn't mean we have to do it my way. I always say that. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like it has to be transparent for the residents, so that they understand, even if they don't agree with the decision, why it was made.
Sure.
So I hope that going forward, when we do planning, we can think about, okay, what are our priorities for planning? Why are we planning here instead of there? And we can have a discussion about that. Because it seems very haphazard to me. We had, at the beginning of the year, we talked that we were all gonna gather 5 planning locations. I don't know if anybody else did. The only person I saw do that was Frank. And then we voted for not all of his locations, but a bunch of them. I submitted some. I know you said that you left them off last time. I didn't see any from anybody else. So.
You're right.
This is, what it looks to me like is there's one person that's making the decisions.
No, there's not one person that's making
Come
the
on, Rob,
decision.
we're all voting on this stuff. That's not a fair
Well,
system.
my main priority, and you voted no on it, and I tried to compromise with you, and I had said to put 12 trees in Community Park, and I tried to compromise with you and came down to 8, okay? You wanted to point out the fact that all these stumps were there. My goal, because that area was so impacted by the disease from the ash trees and all the other trees that were in there that were all dead, my goal is to replant that entire hillside, and that's still my goal for this year. So, there is rationale behind everything, and no one calls any shots that's on this committee. This is a committee, and we talk through things.
Well, I hope so. I do have to say too, like, I don't disagree with all the things that are on here, but you never brought, the sheet that you brought to the council, you never brought to us to discuss. That agenda was never brought to us to discuss. We never voted on that agenda. You went unilaterally and did that.
That's not true.
It's not where, when
That's
did,
not true.
when did that,
We did
I didn't
talk
even get
about
a copy of the
trees in
paper.
community park.
No,
We have
I'm
talked
talking about the agenda sheet that Mike just said, this is my agenda, which should be all of our agenda.
I don't have a personal agenda. It's an agenda based on the
I'm
shade
saying we
tree.
need to, it should have been discussed amongst all of us, we're
What
supposed to be a
agenda sheet
committee.
are you referring to?
The sheet with the planting that Karen gave us last time, we had a bunch of things in there. I'm not saying I even disagree with them, I thought a lot of them were good ideas. I'm just, it's frustrating when we're not running the committee properly and things aren't being discussed the way that they should be discussed.
Sure.
This is unreasonable, that things should be discussed before we bring them to the council. I don't think this is an unreasonable
I
point.
think you have a different opinion than some of the other people on the council, because I certainly don't think that we haven't had discussions about things.
I don't remember discussing what our agenda for the year was. Did we discuss that?
There really is no agenda for the year. We take things as they come, but our goals, we do have a set of goals, and we talked about them at earlier meetings. After I spoke to the council, when we reviewed our meeting in February, I went through everything that I spoke about in front of the council.
But we never voted on that, is what I'm saying. I mean, my experience on working on a committee is that the committee discusses something amongst themselves. Now, if you were short on time or whatever, that's fine. I'm not trying to, but I need to bring this up because there's a pattern here of things not being discussed. If I hadn't said something about the budget, we would have never talked about the budget tonight. All right, so
Rob, do you realize how you're coming across to everybody
I'm
here?
not worried about how I'm
The
coming.
budget is the budget. It was approved by the council, it was kept flat year over year, and it was fine. I didn't have any other questions about it. I understood from the logic that I got back from our council liaison on the budget, and it was fine. To me, there's nothing to discuss on it.
But we're a committee, and like, you're not telling me that, so shouldn't there be a report to the committee? This is what I'm saying. I don't know if you guys discuss things and when I'm not around, and maybe you don't understand, but
I
I
don't
feel.
discuss shade tree with
I feel
anyone
like-
on this
I
committee.
feel like there's things
I gave a
going on that are
report to
not-
our council liaison after every meeting so that he could take it to the council. That's the only
I appreciate
other
that.
person that I have a discussion
Well,
with
that's fine,
about.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, I think that we need to be more open about the way things are done.
Sure, we could work on that then.
And I think we need to follow the proper process for discussing things, whatever they are, planting, whatever our goals are for the year. That's the way that a committee is run, in my understanding.
Michael went to the council because they thought the Shade Tree Commission was just spending money, agreeing with David. Oh, cut that down, sure, plant it there. So he went to defend us, to give him the reason why we exist. He didn't go to the council on his own agenda, he went for us. And then I believe January, we talked about goals and objectives. I mean,
And we also determined and decided that based on how trees are with the drought and all of the environmental conditions, that it is near impossible to do a full year calendar, because we don't know. You can't tell me now that we're gonna need 20 trees planted in, October, or 40 trees need to come down. So we have a more short-term proactive approach to things versus a longer-term plan. Now, I guess in your presentation, when you're talking about canopies and stuff, that is a higher level, forward-looking plan that maybe some of that can be implemented, but I personally don't think. I think it would be not a good use of our time to try to plan out a year's worth of things, but if there is a canopy component to the plan, then maybe we can work something like that in. So I personally don't think that there's anything different that we should be doing. I mean, the only time there's conversations here is because what we're able to do is in committee. We can't do a lot, side conversations.
We could meet, right? We could put committees together and meet, like, we could have two people working together, and then they could come up and they could discuss. I mean, I think this is the way that a lot of committees work together, that people work on a task, whether it's Roe and Frank working on Arbor Day or whatever else, we could do this.
That wasn't your proposal. That wasn't anything of what you just said.
I'm responding to what you said, that
Right,
we
but-
can't discuss outside of the meeting. I'm saying
Right,
that
but
that's
if
not true, we can discuss outside of the meeting.
Right, but in your comments where you seem to be very unhappy with the way the committee is working and working with our team, that maybe that is something that you could consider, but you hadn't brought that up.
Okay, well, it's exactly in line with what I'm saying, which is that we discuss things and think about them carefully before we do them, which is what I feel like has not been happening. And I understand that I'm the one who disagrees, but so be it. That's okay with me. I feel like I have to say this, because if I'm gonna be on here, I want things done the right way. I've been on here for 2.5 years. I have never said that things have to be done my way in terms of what things get done or been upset. But I do think that there's a process that needs to be followed, and the basic process of a governmental committee is that things are discussed before they're presented, that we have of a shade tree commission is that we have a plan about what we're doing. So I'll leave it there, but I mean, if it's upsetting to you guys, I apologize, but it was upsetting to me last meeting to feel like I had said many meetings in a row, we need to have a plan, we should walk around, and I tried to soft pedal it. I decided I wasn't soft pedaling anymore, so that's where we're
You
at.
could also talk to four persons individually too, if you felt this strongly.
I sent 2 emails since the last meeting and they were not replied to.
Because you can't send emails to the entire committee, you can't
Yes,
respond to them.
yes, I understand that I can't because of the open meetings law.
Right.
But there's no reason that someone couldn't write back, thanks. That's not a discussion. Is it? Is that illegal?
That's what the.
If I'm mistaken, then it's fine, but I'm just saying.
No, I mean, of course. I'm sure it's
Roe
not.
frequently writes back, thanks, when Karen sends something, I didn't think it was illegal to do that.
No, I have no idea, I don't think so.
Take it as a learning. If you wanna go ahead with your presentation.
So are we going to reconsider the trees in Janeway Park? The answer is no.
No.
Because there are, I mean, we could make a motion, but that we're going to say that they're done for the residents, and so we'll leave that alone with the understanding that from now on, I hope that we'll discuss more carefully what it is that we're doing.
Sure.
How many ash trees did we take down in that park?
I want to say close to a dozen ash trees that came down along that wood
I mean,
line
that
behind the
neighborhood,
homeowners.
it looked nice, it was a nice touch to that neighborhood. So you don't wanna keep that up.
That's not it. I mean, the thing is, we have a lot of other places, so it's just, again, like, if that's the decision we make, it's the decision we make, but it doesn't feel like it's being discussed. That's what I'm always trying to say. It's not about the location, it's about, like, are we making thoughtful decisions? That's what I'm frustrated about.
Rob,
I
where
don't
would
feel
you
like-
like to, where other?
There are other locations. I thought Mike had good ideas in his agenda, about putting stuff in the parks near playground equipment like that. That would be a possibility. Maybe there's some other places we could look at too. I mean, if they're coming tomorrow, we'll put them where we're putting them, but, you know, I couldn't understand that, and just go to your point, Mary Ann, when I did say something, it was never responded to, right? I said, hey, can we investigate this? Yes, I'm going to, and then it was just voted through. So it's, you know.
Well, they're coming
We'll take-
on Thursday
Because
tomorrow.
we'll take care of-
Not that we answered it, but we all did, I mean, we all read the email.
No, not that one, I'm talking about when I emailed Mike, you know, so I just want a rationale, so if a
Sure.
resident asks me, I can explain to them why we're doing what we're doing. That's what I'm asking for.
Okay.
I don't
sure.
think
But
that's
we'll take,
unreasonable.
no, it's not, we'll take that moving
So-
forward.
Someone will let me know when the tree's planted, and then I will write the thank yous.
Are they being planted tomorrow at 9:30?
Let me know when they're done,
I
and I will
will.
write the, I
Okay,
will write,
because
I'll let you know.
I have the information.
Who's gonna be there? You gonna be there too, Mike?
Al?
Mike will be there, you wanna be there, Rob?
I cannot be there tomorrow, thank you for inviting me though.
Okay, and I think Frank Drew's is gonna be there, and poor
Oh.
Frank was there waiting on Thursday. And he called me, he said, Karen, they're not here. I said, oh.
And if someone wants to take a picture, I can put the picture with the thank you. I'm gonna handwrite it, and
Sure.
I'll print it out,
We'll
and
get
I'll
you a
send it
picture
with
after
the,
they're planted tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll send it with the thank
And
you.
then we'll let her know,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
I don't have any new business, so proceed with your Canopy study.
So I just had a couple other things. So for the agenda, I would like it if we could to make the agenda more specific for both us and the public. This is sort of part of my comment I just made. It's very difficult for me to be able to review things or to know what we're going to be talking about if it's not on the agenda. Obviously, I understand things come up at the last minute. I don't think Karen should be responsible for that, so maybe one of us should solicit things for the agenda. Usually our agenda is basically just a template, right? So I think in my experience with an agenda, it has, you know, more what we're gonna actually talk about under those things.
All right, well, just so you know, forester report, you know what that is, that doesn't have to specifically say anything.
Yes,
because that's
you're
all the
right.
memos,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes.
The budget, you know, comments from the public. So technically, the only thing is if there is old business or new business.
Right, I think we should be soliciting that for people.
Correct, but this time nobody said, like, a lot of times, new business, Arbor Day, old business would be Arbor Day, if you wanna discuss it, you know, all right? But other than that, I don't know what else you wanna put on there, unless you wanna tell me what to put on there.
Well, first of all, I know you have a lot to do, so
That's all right.
I wasn't trying to make
No,
extra
no,
work for you,
But
Karen.
if, I could give you this and you could just tell me and then I could email it to Mike and the both of you could discuss it. But technically, if there is something in old business, someone will tell me, and if there's something for new business, but everything else is basically answered, right? Or unless you want it more specific.
I just thought if there's things like, for example, if I have things I wanna talk about, then it would give these points I'm gonna, like the agenda, then that would be something that everyone
Right,
could
so
think
then-
about before we come to the meeting, and that's sort of the way, to go back to Marion's point, if I'm incorrect and we're not, we can't communicate at all, I think if we only have 4 people, we can communicate, but if we
No.
have 5, we can't, was it 3?
Right.
3, okay.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying, Rob. If you have new business, like here, if you told me you were gonna discuss this, I would put it on here.
Right. If you
Okay.
called Karen and said, I wanna just, she would have put, Rob is gonna present a report.
Yeah, if you want, okay?
If any of us.
Well,
wanted to.
it just, and, I mean, I know what I'm going to do, but it would be helpful for me to, then I can actually, if someone says, hey, I wanna look at that, then I can go and look at it before the meeting, and then otherwise I'm making a decision, or I'm reading something
I
as we go.
understand, yeah, but nobody told me anything.
Well, I'm not blaming you, Karen, I think it's on
Alright.
us, I think it's on us as a
Okay,
committee.
then anybody that has old business or new business that would
Moving
like to
forward,
be
we'll send
discussed,
it,
you
yeah.
know, forward.
Sometimes new things will come up, of course,
Okay,
but-
that would be wonderful. I
Real
can
quick,
space it out a little bit better.
What is so different this year than the last 2.5 years? Like, this agenda had never changed, but this year you're having problems with it. I mean, when, Steve Rosenstein, Jim Davison, I don't know where you're coming from. Do you think we're not being forthcoming with information?
I think that, my first couple of years on here, I was learning, how the committee worked.
Oh,
And,
this is
I'm
Michael, yeah.
relatively new in town, and, you all know each other and do things outside of and I'm the new person, and I was reticent to speak up when I saw things that I didn't agree with. And I decided that this year I was going to speak up.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
In the Revolutionary War, people died. In the First Amendment, you could speak up, so.
I appreciate it, thank you for your general support.
It's when you don't speak up that we have a problem. Any of you on the board.
It's not easy to sit here when everyone disagrees with me and speak up. but-
No one disagrees with you.
So,
Let's just
trying-
move
trying to
forward
do-
here.
I'm trying to do what I think is the right thing to do by pointing this stuff out.
Yeah.
So we talked about the removal of the stakes. I wanted to check in with Dave. Dave, what is the timeline on removal of stakes? Is it 2 growing seasons? Is that what we should be looking for?
It's 2 growing seasons, yeah, which is generally a year.
Okay, so after a year, we should take the stakes off?
Yeah.
As long as the tree seems to be not wobbly or whatever?
And if there is, then there's probably some kind of other issue if it's still wobbly after 2 growing seasons.
Okay.
I mean, and then if need be, like you said, you could leave them on for another year, it's not gonna hurt the growth or long-term effect of the tree. It's when they're, you know, you get 3, 4, 5 years, you leave them on, the tree starts growing around them and callousing over them, then we have issues.
Okay.
Okay, now, what about putting the stakes in all the new trees? Do you want me to tell that to DPW? And also, is there gonna be stakes for the trees at Central Park?
As far as the Servo's planting, Servo stakes them,
I don't, do they really? Are the trees staked now?
they should be.
The ones that were just planted?
They should be
Yes.
staked,
Servo
Servo
takes
takes
care of
the
it.
tree should
Okay,
get
good.
staked.
And then he'll stake the ones at Community Park too.
Whichever tree he plants for us should be staked.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
They take care of that.
Okay.
And then do we have confirmation that they're putting those door knockers on for trees that are planted on people's property? Remember we had a couple of comments that people
But
said.
they don't have them. We found out Circle doesn't have them, so
Oh.
we're just gonna do a tree watering.
That's
thing.
my next item, yeah. Karen.
And I wouldn't rely on Servo for putting the door knockers on, if we have enough trouble locating the
Right,
trees,
yeah.
let's let them plant the trees and, you know, we can
Okay,
handle
so we're
it.
doing that.
So
Okay,
I just
perfect.
wanna say thanks to Karen, she took time to write a letter, and did research for it about watering new trees, so thank you, Karen. 'cause
But
she
that was too intense, my watering.
Well, yes, and this actually goes to part of the new business that I wanted to discuss just very briefly, because we, when I also looked, it seemed like the watering guidelines are more than might be reasonable to ask a resident to do. So I think we should consider using gators on newly planted trees from now on, but then we need to figure out who fills them. Are we gonna ask the residents to fill them? Or is DPW able to fill them? Are we going to ask them? The guidelines I said saw that they need to be watered at least once a day. Obviously, it depends on the soil and the moisture and things like this, but to me, maybe I'm incorrect, but it seemed like from my experience with my own trees in my yard, doing that much watering is, you know, burdensome. So I'm just worried that if people know they have to do that much maintenance, they might not want the tree or they might not take care of it, but we can discuss it, but
But it is true, once a day. I mean,
you mean it's true, it needs to be
to
done once a
water,
day?
Yeah. And
Right.
when
But
get
then
new
you see,
trees
you always have to remember there's the drought.
Right.
They should buy a condo if they don't wanna water.
All
Give
right,
me a
so
break here.
you're just gonna have to get back with me with that one, okay?
I mean, I think you should send the letter, but,
Just send the
but,
letter
yeah, I
and tell
think
them to
so,
water
I think
it.
so for now, but maybe just.
It's usually a
going forward.
bucket a day. For at least a
If you're
couple.
sending a letter to the homeowner that
The
is
four
getting a tree,
trees, yeah.
tell them to water it.
And
People
now
wanna
who's
know.
gonna
too.
do all the trees at Community Park?
But you're better off doing a deeper watering less frequently, because what you're doing, you're encouraging shallow rooting. So ideally, if you want to put a hose, let it trickle 10, 15 minutes. You want to let it trickle and soak that whole root ball. But if you do that 2-3 times a week.
Okay, so like what about like a bucket of water 2 or 3 times a week? But that's not a trickle, but I mean.
No, it's hard to, it's such a difficult topic. Not difficult, but difficult to explain, to use your judgment. If you tell somebody a bucket a day, some people might get a garbage can, consider that a bucket. Other people might consider a teapot a bucket. And if the ground's like rock hard, like a drought, you dump that water on it, where's it gonna go? It's just running right off, it's not soaking. So that's why I'm saying it's easier said than done, or I'm saying it's harder to explain for people to use your common sense to soak the tree. So gator bags is a good idea. Say, look, fill this bag up 3 times a week, or something to that effect. Because a gator bag takes about 6-8 hours, generally will drain. And the purpose is for it to drain and soak that root ball instead of running off on the hard pan.
All right, so maybe it's only 4 trees that we planted, so why don't we just purchase gator bags? And then we could just tell them to fill it up when they're empty, right?
Well, like I said, it drains about 6 to 8 hours it takes generally for it to drain. So I would tell them to fill it up like Monday, Wednesday, Friday or something to that effect. So 3 times a week.
3 times a week, okay.
And did we talk about the length of time a gator bag stays on a tree? Did we talk about that? Does it have to come out after a certain?
The simple idea.
I think the same time
I believe so. We can
with the
talk about
stakes, I would say within a year.
Yeah.
Generally, they won't last a year. With the weather, they'll either rip or blow off, unfortunately. But as long as we get them the initial, 6 months out of them or something, I think.
Yeah. So Karen, I don't know if you heard that. I don't know if it's worth it putting in there, say, by the way, you know, if after 6 months the gator bag is getting tattered and stuff, it's okay to take it off. I don't know,
Well, I don't think it would last the winter, am I correct? They would have to take
Generally it
it,
probably won't,
you know, they would have to take it off in the winter anyway, right?
but
I think you have to spell it out for people, otherwise I think people would be calling, be like, oh, the bag is ripped, I need a new bag.
over time the bag will deteriorate,
Right.
you know, this is not a concern.
So,
So, okay, so within the letter, we could say the gator bag for 3 months?
At least the summer months, I would say.
It's
the gator bag should last throughout the
Oh, I mean,
summer.
for the bags to
If it
last, yeah.
decomposes after that, it's fine, right, something like that.
Okay.
Just
so
so they
we'll
know
have
that they're not gonna be
English
calling
teacher
us.
writes a nice letter, okay?
I'm not gonna do, I have to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday I
Alright,
got
well,
stuff,
just-
so I don't know what
you
the
can
other
just-
do.
Alright, you'll help me,
Yeah,
okay,
thanks,
good,
I'll take care of it.
Yep.
alright. And you're gonna find out from Serpo tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Should I call him and tell him to bring gator bags?
I don't know if that's gonna be a hassle for him. It seems like, I apologize, I think it might be more of a hassle for him, maybe I'm wrong.
I'll speak with him tomorrow when I see him and see what they.
I think at like a short notice it might be.
We've had rain, so it's been good with the 4 trees.
Yeah.
Thanks for handling all that, Karen, appreciate it.
But maybe moving forward with Servo, if we wanted the gator bags, we could talk to him and say, look, can you include them with each planting, let us know what it's gonna be.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, when we call Servo, it includes staking, includes planting, gator bags, includes a 2-year warranty. So we're all on the same page, we know
Yeah.
what we're getting, what we're paying for, and we don't have to go out ourselves and buy gator bags, or, oh, we forgot to put a gator bag on this tree, et cetera. We all know it should be done through Servo.
Sure.
We talked about the deer yard too, right, so I don't know if people are still wanting to do that, but maybe that should be wrapped, not on these 4, but are we getting that in the trees that are gonna be planted tomorrow?
Not sure, I'll have to communicate with Serpo again.
Okay.
All right, so, thanks for indulging me on those things. I'm sorry to, give you more stuff. So, I took some time here and, made this report, and I wanted to just kind of show you what I have. I think I have enough copies
Yeah,
for everyone.
good.
I think so. There's one for you, bro. Here you go, Mike.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Another one. Here's one for you, Sal.
Oh, I can share with Dave if you're low. Oh,
I got one for you, Dave, or not,
You
sorry.
have one?
Don't worry, I can get another.
You might like
Here you go.
Come on over my
There's
side.
10 here.
Oh,
There's
Oh, we got them all, never mind. So, thank you, sir.
So it's a little bit hard to see on this report because it's black and white in the maps. I apologize for that. I don't have a color printer, so.
Alright, do you have this in color?
I do,
Then you can email it to me,
absolutely.
then if you wanna discuss it now or next month, because I'll do it all in color.
Well, I gave such a big wind up here. I better do it now, I think. And I can email it to people, or I can give it to you to email to people, whatever meets the open meeting
Well, I
record
can
law.
just, I'll make a hard copy of it,
All right.
Yeah, I definitely think
alright, a nice hard copy,
Yep.
okay?
that'll be
Yeah,
great.
that would look
But
great.
you have to email it to me, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
So, what this is if you remember, we had talked back in, I think it was February, I had started to do some analysis of the canopy in town after stumbling across some data that said that we were losing a substantial portion of our canopy. And the way that this works is you basically, there's a US Forest Service program that will generate random points, and you look at a current satellite image of the town, and you determine whether on that, what the cover is. You could do more than one type. For this, to keep it simple, I just did whether there's a tree or no tree at each spot. And then, after you do those points, you go back and you pick a point earlier in time, and you compare whether or not there was a tree or no tree coverage at that time. So what this report is I took 1,000 points along the streets south of Grannis Avenue. So I picked that because I did an analysis of the whole borough, and the neighborhoods south of Grannis were the ones that they said were the most at risk. So, which kind of makes sense to me. They're in older her neighborhood, and the houses are tight together, right? So if you look, you can see, I guess I say on here that after doing this and comparing them, this is just for next to the actual streets, okay? So the original canopy that I did was the canopy for the whole town, so that included both private land and our shade tree land. And so what I really wanted to find out was, okay, we can't do that much to control what goes on private land because that's not our charge, but in terms of the land that we're managing, how are we doing for our canopy? And I did the best I could to take the right-of-way along each street. It's difficult on a satellite image to get exactly the measurement of 10 feet, of course. But okay, so if you look at this first map, it's a little bit hard to see because there's red, but you might notice there's a couple stars. If you look at the end of Birch Drive, there's one there.
I can't see are you talking about this one?
Yes, the first one, that's a canopy lost and gain below Granite.
Here's two stores.
So the square is a place where we lost canopy between 2010 and 2025. And the stars are places where we gained canopy. In other words, there was no tree there and we have planted a new tree or someone has planted a new tree. So I only found 8 of those places that we gained. I think there were 192 places where we lost. All right? So,
When was?
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
Well, I'm just looking at my street,
Yeah,
only
yeah.
because I know I planted 3 trees.
2023 is the most recent image they had because the 2025 images
Okay,
are
yeah.
not updated, are not well updated yet.
Cause I know, like, I'm just looking on my street, cause I can tell obviously who planted
Yeah.
trees and did all stuff, like I know on mine, I planted 3 trees that weren't there. And so it's not reflected on this.
Right, so it's
thing.
not, but just to be clear, that's a great question. This is not actually about the trees. If I misspoke, I apologize. It's about the canopy because it's an overhead view, right? So it's not like trees that were removed or trees that were planted, it's about the canopy. So a small new tree isn't going to have as much coverage, obviously, as like a mature tree will in terms of the canopy coverage.
My trees, those 3 trees in the park that are big.
Okay, well,
But, so the satellite is not from 2025, it's 2023 satellite view.
That was the most recent that
Okay.
they had in the Forest Service
Yeah.
data.
Okay.
I put 2025 on here,
Yep.
but yeah, the pictures are 2023 things. I should probably change that.
I planted them on my lawn.
Yeah, so they're not showing.
It
So-
should be, cause it's an overhead view that would
So-
show, but he's saying because it was 2023, which the trees came in, I planted the trees in 2023, but it was probably
I thought all these
after.
circles were town trees. No?
They are, what they are is what happens is the program, like basically you have an area, and the program generates random points within the area.
Yeah.
And then you assess at each of those points, is there canopy here or not canopy here?
Right.
So it's not about the tree because you can't see the trunk of the tree when you're looking from the overhead view. You can only see the canopy
All right, I got it.
and whether there's leaves. So, so these are all, as you can see, these are all points where there's loss. So what I did is in an Excel spreadsheet, I compared the 2010 with the 2023 data and found the ones that had changed, and these are the ones that had changed. So the majority of them that have changed, as you can see, are a negative change rather than positive. On the next page, you can see there is a chart and a graph, or here I always mess those up, of the land cover. You can just ignore the ONT. That was me just trying to build in an extra category in case, because once you set up the categories, you can't change them, and I just wanted to make sure I had an out in the analysis. So you can see that in 2010, the coverage of trees was 61.5% was our tree cover. And then if you go down and you look at,
And is that the total borough or just the area?
that's
that
just
you
this area
okay.
below Granite. And then if you look at the tree coverage below Granite for the 2023 map, it's down to 43%.
So, sorry, remind
No,
me again
I'm sorry.
why, who recommended that you look at Granite? What was that?
It's the tool's name is it's not the land use. They have like a suite of, the Forest Service has like a suite of tools that you can use
Okay.
to analyze canopy coverage. And so what I did is I looked at, the map, you know, and it's basically done by like census or voting district.
Yeah.
And then it shows which ones, you know, are more at risk. What that formula is or whatever, I think you can change.
So this below, south of Granite, I think you said, is the area that's most at risk.
That's what I thought from looking at it. I mean, I'm happy to debate all of this. I'm just, you know, there's
No, I'm just, this is my like thing, this is methodology kind of person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm just trying to figure out how do they define
I think it's canopy loss, I think is what I looked at.
Okay.
There are,
Loss, L-O.
yeah, cause what they do is they have like a general satellite picture, I think, but they're not gonna be down to the granular level of this.
Got it.
But I'd be happy to talk to you about it, and we could.
No one
talk
else
about
speaks
that.
out on this stuff like
Or-
we do.
well,
It's
I-
okay. We'll bore
I'm
you.
glad you're
I
interested.
keep my
I'm
questions
happy,
limited.
no, please, ask as many questions as you want. And I'm not an expert on this, this is not my training, I'm just trying to do the best job I can to come up with some data. So I, you know, definitely made some mistakes, and it's also very hard when you're trying to compare satellite images, because the way that they take the pictures, the angles are not always the same, and the light is at a different time during different times of day. So, you know, when you're trying to, and the older the images get, of course, the blurrier they are, which is why I went to 2010, because that was the clearest image I could find, and also 15 seemed like a good number. Okay, so that's I think if my math's right, that's an 18% drop in our canopy coverage. And so then I just gave some map comparisons here of two different areas below Granite, just so
Oh
you
my
can
God,
kind of
one
look.
more question, Rob.
No, please.
Sorry. One more question, then I'll stop.
You don't need to, I'm happy. to
What
answer.
is an acceptable percentage of canopy loss by year? So like, how do we know 18% drop is a good number or a bad number?
So that's a good question, and I do need to do more research. My preliminary research says that Morris County, from 2001 until I think it was 2023, lost 1.2% of their canopy.
But that was before all this high density housing.
That's the whole county. I mean, it includes communities that are a lot more, you know, rural or less, you know, than we are. So, but I would say that it's like 1 out of every 6 spots, you know, we lost. And then there's also another question, which I was thinking, to go to your point, Marion, which is, you know, maybe some of these trees were overgrown or something, and with the, you know, the loss was necessary for, you know, maintenance or something like that.
Okay.
But I do think that if you just look at these images in 2010 and 2023 here, you can see, you know, and this will bring up our conversation about the overhead wires, but if you look at Birch and Mountain Way, you can just see the loss just visually, right? The colors are different just because the satellite images are different. But you can see as you go around where those are that there were trees there in the picture. So
the squares on the 2010 picture was lost from before 2010?
they're the same spots. So I left them on there as the same spots. So you're looking at the same spots. So you can see, okay, there's a house here, and if I go to here, I can see it's the same spot.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I had more time, sorry, Mike, if I had more time, I would have liked to have gone through this image and actually done it manually, but I just didn't have the time to do this. It already took me way too long.
So I wasn't in the borough during a lot of this chunk of time. Is there anything from the Forestry Service to discuss what kind of impact Superstorm Sandy had? Because my understanding is North Plains was impacted substantially.
Yep.
by that.
Yeah, absolutely, and just to be clear, because I didn't say it from the outset, I'm not saying that this is all because of us cutting trees down. I'm just
No, I
more,
understand
I'm
that.
just more saying that it's concerning, the level of loss is concerning, regardless of what the cause of it is.
Okay.
But I agree with you, there's that, there's the various diseases and pests and things, and you know.
I know it's just me and I don't have my contacts in, but to me, and I'm looking at this comparison, and I know the colors are different, so the darker one, they show up a lot more. To me, at least, which is why I think the color images will really help. It doesn't, I mean, I can see on this north side here where there's some trees, but overall, it looks to me fairly similar, so I would definitely love to get the
Yeah,
benefit of
absolutely,
the color ones.
sure, yeah. I mean, I think if you match the the dots where the canopy loss is, you'll see that there were trees there. So like if you go on that
Right.
south side of Birch, for example, in the Birch picture, you can see that all of those houses there, now there's wires there. So that's something that we need to discuss. But you can see that there were trees on both sides of the street going all the way down to Merchant Place. And now, many fewer. And the same thing, if you look at the top bend, I guess it's the top westerly bend. You can see that those, and the wires, I think, cross over there, so.
They do.
And then the same thing for Washington and Idlewild. So if you look at this map, you can see, if you look down the western side of Washington, you can see that we lost all of these trees. If you look at the beginning where Idlewild meets Mountain Way, you can see that there's tree loss here as well. So I gave you these because they seem to be the ones that visually you could tell the difference the most. And I think that when something happens on this time scale, it's difficult to really see it, right? And then I remembered when I was doing this, I was like, oh, I remember during the pandemic when I was walking around with my daughter that those people cut down a bunch of trees right next to the road, or and I started to remember, oh yeah, these things did happen, but you just sort of forget. So
Yeah, but it's interesting to your point, because a lot of these canopies are on people's private property, and they were the one, a lot of them are making, besides the ash tree thing that we had going on, right? A lot of homeowners are making decisions about cutting down trees on their properties it could be for good reasons, or it could be, they didn't want them anymore and they cut them down. So it's interesting when we take a look at this in more detail, like how much you can really control for and how much is the uncontrolled part of it, where we have no authority or ability to impact.
yeah, these ones, I think you know this, Marion, but just to be clear, like what I did here, which wasn't an exact science, is I created boxes that ran parallel to each street, roughly at the 10-foot mark. Some of them, were a little bit outside, but once you set that map, you can't change it, or you're going to start the whole thing over again. So, there were fewer, and what I did was, if it was clearly outside, I just sort of said there was no change, even if there was a change, because I felt like it shouldn't be reported in here.
But the canopy loss is canopies overall versus canopies in right-of-way.
Right, so I did this specific report because I wanted to talk about what we maybe can control, rather than other things like new developments and stuff like this, So what is it that we have jurisdiction over or can have an effect on? So then, and this is just me brainstorming, I put on the last page here, so possible causes. So I said, disease and natural decay, and that's where I put in, but only 1.3% of Morris County, and that's the stat I could find. I need to do more research here, I ran out of time. Unapproved removal, I've only been on this committee for 2.5 years, but it seemed hard to believe to me when I would see some of the trees and I would actually go and look at the Google Street images that we approved removing these trees. I'm not, I don't know that that's happening, and I think one of the things is that it's difficult for us to be everywhere at once, or impossible, and so this goes to kind of one of my solutions, which is I think we need to do a better job of educating people about the right of way and that those are borrowed trees, because a lot of people I speak to do not know that. And so they think it's their property, it's their house, they pay a lot of money for it, they want it this way or whatever, and maybe they're cutting the tree down. Also, when new lots are developed was another thing I noticed as I was going through.
There's a lot of them in that area too.
People tend to go through and just clear cut things, and we don't have control over what happens in the back of the lot, but the sides of the lot where that are borrowed, maybe we need to think about talking to whatever it is, Board of Adjustment or
Well, a
whatever
lot
it
of
is.
times, because I'm on, they can't touch town trees. They can touch trees on their property. So if they came to the board and they're building a new house, they know they can't touch those trees. They're told they can't.
Yeah.
No, but what we can do is, if they're building if they're clearing their lot, they're like, the town will allow, but we need trees put back to maintain our canopy.
Oh,
So,
you mean on
I'm
their
saying, so
property?
we should look at moving forward with something from the homeowners that they're gonna clear cut a lot for their house. They're not touching a town tree, but yet they took, an acre of canopy. So how are we gonna get that back?
Okay,
So we
well,
need
then the ordinance has to be changed.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's something we should
We need
think
to
about.
change the ordinance, because within the ordinance, you're allowed to cut every tree down on your property.
So, I mean, that's
And
beyond
if
us
it's less
tonight,
than
but
an
I'm just
acre.
saying that's, food for thought for.
Yeah, that tree ordinance is still, I forget what happened to it. It was being
Well, they started
revised.
working on it.
Started working on it again?
And then, when Kathy was there,
Yeah.
and then, it just stopped.
Yeah.
We gotta
And
pick
I
that
don't
back
see
up.
them
Yeah,
there.
cause I know there's something in there.
Well,
That
But
tree
that's-
ordinance
yeah,
includes
but you see,
lots
Mayfield
that are
Road goes
smaller, cause that
over
tree
here,
ordinance was a
past
generic
Janeway.
tree
Into
ordinance
here.
for the state of New Jersey, and the tree lot, the housing lot sizes were much bigger than the
Okay,
housing
but
lots in
that's
Morris
not
Plains, so
true.
it wouldn't have applied to anything.
mhm.
You know what
So
I'm
they were
saying?
talking
And I have
about
three huge
doing the
branches
revisions
where
to
they
it,
have
which included lot size, so that there would be more control over a homeowner coming in and just leveling a lot, but it's still under review.
So the shade tree ordinance has never been adopted, or that one?
Which
that-
shade tree
The
are?
one,
That one, yeah, South
The
saying
one that,
it's,
Kathy,
Yeah.
Kelly was working
Yeah.
on?
The
So
stormwater.
it's
No,
still working on
it's
it?
been working on it,
yeah, it's in the works still.
But our
But we have to
ordinance that
adopt-
we have now,
So,
okay, we give them permission to remove all the trees on their
Yes.
property. And I'll just give you an example, somebody called, I think it was Friday, and they said they wanna remove all their trees. And I said, you have to talk to the zoning officer, only reason was for drainage and all of this stuff. I don't know where they lived, and for you to ask me all your trees, I can't, I'm not gonna be the one saying yes.
so they weren't putting in a pool or an addition or
Well, I
anything?
have, no, they weren't, they just wanted to remove all the trees, so,
Okay.
but where they lived, I said, all the trees, you have to speak with the zoning officer.
good answer.
I didn't know what to say, because of drainage and,
I think that, to my mind, I think this, if it's accurate, happy to have it reviewed. I would love for it not to be accurate, because that would mean we're not losing this many trees. I think that, this is sort of partly behind my frustration too, because I've kind of seen this coming, and I feel like, I probably put the carrot and the stick the wrong way by making those other comments first, but really why I wanted to do this wasn't, because I feel like sometimes maybe it's not clear why it is that I'm saying the things that I'm saying, and that this that I've been seeing and that I've been noticing as I walk around is behind some of my things, like we need to think more carefully about where we're planning, we need to solve some of these issues, because I think, it's not just being finicky. I think there's like a real meaningful change in the character of where we live. And, we're the only ones who can really do something about that, or we're the ones at least tasked with doing something about that. And I know that the removals are important and safety is important, and I agree with that. I also think that, the long-term canopy and shade of the borough is important for, all of us, for the value of the neighborhoods, for our electricity bills, for, all kinds of things we could list. So I put some possible solutions here. Again, like always, these are just ideas. We can talk about them and think about them. This is why I think that we need to have a management plan, because I think part of the reason that we're here is because we haven't had a plan in order to keep track of things, to have a sort of a clear agenda, to be aware of things. I think if we were more organized and we had a plan, we could be aware and keep up with some of these. I do think getting accredited would be a good idea. Continuing ed classes, I'm gonna commit to try and take at least one other continuing ed class. I feel like there's a lot to learn. I learned that through my core training. And the other thing is grant funding. So by not being accredited, we're leaving money on the table. When I got Morristown, now granted they're bigger than us, obviously. When I got their Arbor Day notice, it said that they have gotten, I think in the last 10 years, I think it was $150,000 in grant money for planting trees.
Yeah, but they're in a different category. They get money for those urban, more urban grants that we are not eligible for.
Right, so sure, I mean, I'm totally, with you on that, but how much have we gotten?
We've tried. We've
Well,
got.
you tried, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I
But-
mean, we'll keep trying, we'll go in for that, the same grant again, and we'll see if we can get it, but yeah, it's an uphill battle.
For example, there was the talk that Karen gave us the link to, was for a grant for school, but I looked at the grant and it was also for, where kids are walking to school or parks that kids use after school. I think it was up to, was it $20,000 or $30,000 for planting new trees? So by not doing that, we can't do everything, but we're leaving money on the table that could help to address some of this, I guess, is what I'm saying. And if we're gonna write the grant, having a current plan and being accredited, of course, goes toward, as we all know, us showing like, hey, we're gonna do the right thing with the money. And, if we don't have any of those things, it's like, the perception may be people don't have their act together. So I hope we could do that. The other part is, the public outreach, I think I talked about. And then I think we need to talk at some point about this right tree, right place and overhead wires. One of the interesting things I discovered was that when I was actually trying to help you, Karen, I found that the New Jersey Shade Tree Federation has a list of Shade Tree Commission documents, like templates. And one of them, interesting to me, was, I guess, a lot of towns are trying to ask homeowners if they can get an additional 5 feet just to plant a tree of a right-of-way. Not saying we need to do that, maybe there's legal problems with it, I don't know, but I just thought it was interesting, because one of the most common things people say to me is, there's trees under the overhead wires, I hate these trees over the underhead wires, they look terrible, and we've been having a problem. And when you look at this image, you'll see that, a lot of them are under overhead wires. So I don't know if it's something we could explore. Can we get another 5 feet just for, there was a form, I don't know how it works, but it'd be something to research. So I think there's ways that we might do a little bit more in order to try and do this. And, if I spoke before in a way that was not appropriate, I apologize. I was frustrated, and it wasn't easy for me to say those things, so I apologize for that. And I hope that we can work together, because really what I care about is trying to get this work done. That's what I care about. So thank you for listening.
No, listen, I appreciate you taking the time to do this, I really do. I wanna continue to work together, so we're fine with
Good.
discussing things in a meeting as a committee as we should, so we're good, we'll move forward and continue to work and
Thanks,
continue to
appreciate
do the good work that we're doing.
Rob, I just wish all these people that speak to you why can't they come to our meeting, or why can't they write to us, or say, hey, I spoke to Rob and we wanna know why,
You mean about the overhead wires?
About anything, people are concerned about what we're doing, like, they should come to the meeting and talk with us.
I agree.
Okay.
I'm all for more people coming to
I
meetings.
don't know
Yeah.
what they think they look like out there, like bobblehead dolls, just to green it,
I
plant the tree and take it down.
I completely agree with you, bro. I think that that more participation is always better.
And I think we should, really, we talked about plain talk, why don't we put an article in there and let them know what we're doing and how we're doing, and,
I think that would be a great idea.
well, we can talk about, we can do that.
I think it would be a great
That's
idea.
something.
Yeah.
I don't know what the deadline is for that, the plains talk, I don't know.
They
if
said it's a
already
council
passed.
meeting.
It's already
coming up,
passed.
yeah.
But there's
It's always open.
Comes up again.
It already passed, but we had a discussion about what that is going to be about, whether it's gonna be an article about updating people about what we're doing, or, we talked about the call to action about, hey, you want a tree, write us, and we decided that would be tabled until the fall. But the article was something that I think we talked about, right? I think that's where we.
I'm always willing to bend if if we're going in the same general direction. If you wanna write an article about, to make people aware, I think that's great. I can leave the other thing if there's an objection to it, I don't mind. I just wanna see us moving in the right direction, that's what, and I feel like we're doing that, but more slowly than I would like.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for all that work. Great
Appreciate
report.
that. So, in keeping with the time that we're at, and I know a couple other folks have a meeting coming up next, I move a motion to close the meeting.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
roll call. Karen,
Oh, you want a roll call?
Well, you're
voice
closing the
vote?
meeting,
All in
right?
favor?
it's all right, don't worry about it, you're
Aye.
fine.
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor?
Good job, guys.
Good luck at the meeting tonight, a double header.
Good work.
Double header.